Good evening, brothers and sisters. Happy to be here. I'm not going to be long, but I must be strong as we talk about the chronology of the failure of the Muslim movement from government agents that we have working within the Muslim movement. And so we're geared to talk about those things now, since we've been through the process of showing how the nation was compromised and who was used to do it. And we're confident that if you would follow our lessons and follow our teachings, you'll be able to see how America infiltrated and ultimately invaded the nation of Islam. This is a very serious thing we have to talk about, because we have to understand what has happened, so we'll make sure that the mistakes doesn't happen again. So it's very important that we understand exactly what's happened. Now, another thing that's important to point out is that before you can even infiltrate, some people within the regime, whether they be the oppressed or the oppressed in the regime, must seek a regime change. Now, each regime change doesn't have to be what's running the government. It could be the mind of the people. It could be an organized group of the oppressed that would seek, change, or seek at least to put the power back into the hands of the governing body. This is an agent, this is an informant, and this is what they were there for. So we have to remember that, because it's very important. Excuse me, brothers and sisters, I know you understand. And we have to wonder what country we're living in. Have an understanding of the tactics of that country and how you and I are going to overcome future entanglements or future situations of oppression that'll come from this country. That's the reality. So we're going to wait for everyone to get here, and then we'll begin to talk about it. While we're waiting on them, I'm going to post in our normal learning. Okay, so don't forget, brothers and sisters, we can't do the work that we do unless you're willing to support what we're doing. In order for us to do the work, you got to be willing to support it. And hopefully you're letting people know that we're on the show and that we're non-compromised and non-biased, so we can get individuals here. We got another difficult subject to talk about. Nonetheless, we're ready to move forward in such. And like that, we're able to give some understanding where there is none presently. I'm sure you would agree that what we lack in our community is understanding as far as where to go from here. We lack this in our community. So our desire and our prayer is to find this understanding that we must have, being able to impart it to our children so that they will have some understanding. This is what we have to do. We are challenged today like never before Um, we have so many things working against us. Look like we're having some interruptions now. Just one moment. We can figure out where this interruption is coming from. Look like we're having some interruptions now. So we're gonna try to close out these. Don't have to worry about those interruptions. Hopefully we've handled the problem. I hope that we've handled it. We're gonna go back to talk about America. Talk about its infiltration into the Nation of Islam. Now, this is very, very important. So not gonna be before you long. Won't be before you long. My purpose is to give you a thumbnail sketch of what's been going on. So, as we talk about this, we have to go back to the legacy of the Nation of Islam. And then talk about the controversies and the rift. And we talk about Ernest 2X and some of the others. So this is very important as far as where we are now with the nation as opposed to where we could be. These things are very, very, very important. So what we have to understand is that in organizing a nation, within a nation, you're seeking independence from the group of people that you have under oppression. If by doing that, you'll gain independence faster than marching down some street. Not only that, not only will you learn independence and gain it quicker, but you take money out of the government's money basket or money bag or bank. And America just isn't going to let you do that. They're not going to let you do that any more than them giving you freedom. It'll never happen. That's something that will never happen. So we go to the threat that the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad proposed. We go to that threat because that is what's really affecting us now. We have to go to that threat, and this is why we wait on individuals to get here. We're gonna be concentrating on that. Also, a riff with Ernest 2X McGee. We're gonna talk about that. So these things are important. Now, Ernest McGee was the first national secretary of the NOI and had been ousted in the 1950s. So McGee went on to form a Sunni Muslim sect. I want you to see that there's a pattern happening here. McGee went on to form a Sunni Muslim sect and changed his name to Hamas Abdul Khalis. Khalis attracted Lou and Cylinder. Now, for those of you all that don't know who Lou Alcindor is, this is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, an American former professional basketball player who played in 20 seasons with the National Basketball Association for the Milwaukee Bucks and the Los Angeles Lakers. During his career, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was a six-time NBA most valuable player. Now, keep your eyes on this because you're going to see, you see a pattern. You see a pattern, and that's what we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about that as soon as the introductory message is over. What I want you to see is a pattern where something or someone is introducing Sunni Islam, and it's being introduced not as an option to the Nation of Islam, but being introduced as a tactic against the Nation of Islam. So that's something that we have to understand, have to concentrate on it. Something that we want to keep it in front of us, keep in front of our eyes. Now, and we're going to talk about that more, of course, but Calais renamed Kareem Abdul-Jabbar donated a house for the use of the Hanafi Madhhab, or Madhhab Center. So Millere sent letters that were critical of Muhammad and fought Muhammad to his ministers and the media. This poses a problem. So the letter stated that blacks have been better off from a psychological point of view before Farr came along because it weaned them from Christianity to a fabricated form of Islam. Both, in his opinion, were bad. His letter also revealed that he knew of Farr, alleging he was John Walker of Gary, who had come to America at 27 from Greece, had served prison time for stealing and raping a 17-year-old girl, and had died in Chicago, Illinois at 78. And we have to pay attention to this because all of these aliases are coming up, and we don't exactly know what's going on. So it's important for us to be discussing these things. These controversies and these rifts is very, very important for us to understand it, because these rifts and these controversies is what further damaged and destroyed the Nation of Islam. And after the letters were sent, 7 of Khalid's family members were murdered at the Hanafi. Four men of the NOI Mosque number 12 was accused of the crime. Now, this is before Minister Malcolm. This is way before Minister Malcolm. We're talking about in the 1950s. Minister Malcolm was in the nation around this time. But this is earlier on when Ernest 2X McGee was the first national secretary of the NOI and had been ousted in the late 1950s. Hamas Abdul Khalis, both Ernest Timothy McGee, or born Ernest Timothy McGee, was a leader of Hanafi movement, a black Muslim group based in Washington, D.C. And I want you to pay attention to what's going on. So when they're moving toward this, moving against the legacy of the Nation of Islam, right, then we can start having understanding that the U.S. government is infiltrating, right? We can at least have some understanding of that. All right, so on January the 30th of 1975, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad entered Mercy Hospital in Chicago, Illinois, suffering from a combination of heart disease, diabetes, bronchitis, and asthma. He died there of congestive heart failure nearly 1 month later at 77 years of age on February the 25th, the day before Savior's Day. He was survived by many, including his 2 daughters, 6 sons by his wife, most notably the future leader, Warideen Muhammad. We already know that Wallace Warideen Muhammad was a traitor. He intended to destroy the Nation of Islam. We already know that. He was buried alongside Clara at the Mount Glenwood Memory Gardens, south in Glenwood, Illinois. Now, let's get to the legacy of the Nation of Islam. During his time, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, during his time as leader of the Nation of Islam, Muhammad had developed the Nation of Islam from a small movement movement in Detroit to an empire consisting of banks, schools, restaurants, stores across 46 cities. The nation also owned 15,000 acres of land, their own truck and air transport system, as well as the publishing company that printed the country's largest black newspaper. As a leader, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad served as mentor to many notable members, including Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Louis Farrakhan, and his son Wallace Waradeen Muhammad. The nation is estimated at having between 20,000 to 50,000 members and 130 mosques offering numerous social programs. Upon his death, his son Waradeen Muhammad succeeded him. Warid disbanded the Nation of Islam in 1976 and founded an orthodox mainstream Islamic organization that came to be known as the American Society of Muslims. The organization would disavow change, the organization would dissolve, change names, and reorganize many times. In 1977, this is another key thing, Louis Farrakhan resigned from Wallace Waradeen Muhammad's Reform Organization and restituted the original Nation of Islam upon the foundation established by Wallace Fard Muhammad and Elijah Muhammad. Farrakhan regained many of the Nation of Islam's original properties, including the national headquarters, Mosque number 2, Mosque Miriam, and Muhammad University of Islam in Chicago. Now, let's go down. We read the riff of, what's the young brother's name? The riff of Ernest 2X McGee. We read that. Now, riff with Malcolm X pretty much centers around the rumors were circulated among the Nation of Islam members that Elijah was conducting extramarital affairs with young nation secretaries, which would constitute a serious violation of nation teaching. After the first discounting the rumors, Malcolm X came to believe them after he spoke with Elijah's son Wallace, with the women making the accusation. Malcolm X publicly accused Elijah of having 8 children with 6 different teenage girls who were his private secretary. Elijah confirmed the rumors in 1963, attempting to justify his behavior by referring to the precedent set by biblical prophecies or prophets. Now, I want you to understand something. First of all, as Muslims, you're able to practice polygamy. But they were dirtying the waters earlier on with Wallace Waradeen Muhammad. And at the same time, the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad is sort of teaching to a point where he wants to get them in this teaching manner where they could sort of understand. And I just this right here is just clearing things up to show you infiltration, and because we're not going to be long, but how they could infiltrate, and why they infiltrate, play stories that are not accurate. And this is to drive the mindset of the people, or to make them unsure of who they're involved with. And the only thing you have to do is make brothers and sisters uncertain, right? You get in their head, make them uncertain, and they're liable to do anything or liable to believe anything. But the government was setting it up the entire time because the answer to McGee was what? Sunni Islam. Same answer to Wallace was Sunni Islam. Same answer to Malcolm was Sunni Islam, right? Isn't that right, brothers and sisters? So they were trying to make the religion of the Nation of Islam of none effect. And that's very important to understand and very important to know. On December 1963, when asked for a comment about the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, Malcolm said it was a case of the chickens coming home to roost. He added that chickens coming home to roost never did make me sad. They always made me glad. The New York Times wrote, in further criticism of Mr. Kennedy, the Muslim leader recited the murders of Patrice Lumumba, Congo leader of Medgar Evers, civil rights leader of Negro girls, bombed earlier this year in Birmingham, Alabama. These, he said, were instances of other chickens coming home to roost. The remark prompted a widespread public outcry. The Nation of Islam, which had sent a message of condolence to the Kennedy family and ordered his ministers not to comment on the assassination. Publicly censored their former shining star. Malcolm retained his post and rank as minister, but he was prohibited from speaking for 90 days. All right. So they're creating these, how do you put, quagmires? They're creating quagmires. And in order to do that, they have to pass a message first. But it allows them to accept to an acceptable or to exceptional ploy to be able to infiltrate the Nation of Islam and to also invade the Nation of Islam, because they are different. When you infiltrate, you're trying to get eyes into places and try to see what's going on. But when you invade it, you're coming in and take over. That means that you understand a lot more about the problem and situation than the enemy thought you did. Well, brothers and sisters, that's all I have for you tonight. I'm not going to go any stronger than that, because I think that you're able to process now from yesterday to today what would be an awesome and better, right? Isn't that right? Awesome and better position to be in as it relates to understanding truth and how you can take that truth, apply it to an organization for the better, and be able to still be productive. Because I don't think that any organization is important enough or perfect enough that it wouldn't have any faults that we can learn from. So that's the thing I want to say to you. If I didn't say anything in the beginning, I want to say it again, brothers and sisters. I want to say that I love you. I know that this recording is very short, but I had to finish off what I was saying from yesterday, so it's not intended to be very long. And I pray that God blesses you in all that you do, so that you could be an example and example to your community, because we certainly need examples and examples in our community, right? Because the more that I learn, the more I can teach you. If I learn a great lesson, then I'm able to teach you a great lesson. If we're living the same life and receiving the same lessons, then we're able to teach people a greater lesson. And that's what I want you to know. So we have to be what? Steadfast, unmovable, and always abounding in the work of God, which is found in Christ Jesus. Isn't that right? You got to do that. And who is Jesus? Jesus is you and me. Jesus is anyone that will do the will of his Father, right? Jesus is a bloodline, a DNA of what's holy and what's righteous. So, brothers and sisters, I'm very happy to be here. I'm not going to hold you. Not going to hold you at all, but I'm glad that we came here to finish wrapping that up, because it was very, very, very important. Join us tomorrow, please do. We'll be talking about some of the same things when you join us tomorrow. We're not going to let go. We're not going to get down, and we're not going to, how we put it, fall out, right? But we're going to stand. We're going to be steadfast. We're going to be immovable, always abounding in the work of God. All right. Also, brothers and sisters, don't forget that we're indigenous, herbal, plant-based treatment source. So if you want herbal medicine or herbalism, come to us, and we can help you out in that area if you come to us. What is herbalism? It's the study of pharmacognosy and the use of medicinal plants, which are the basis of traditional medicine. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be righteous. Brothers and sisters, thank you again. Sorry I have to leave, but it is good to leave now. We only came on so you could have some understanding about what we talked about yesterday and to try to finish it in its totality. So thank you again. I pray that God bless you in all that you do. If I didn't say it in the beginning, I say it to you. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. As it's been